Hi, everybody. Paranormal Polly here. Today, I'm going to be talking about an experience I had as a child with the GATE program, remote viewing, and a government program called Project Stargate. I was in the GATE program. The GATE stands for Gifted and Talented Education. I was in the GATE program either second or third grade, and my sister was in it third or fourth grade. This is early 80s. I actually didn't remember being in the GATE program until I stumbled across this video a couple of years ago, and it triggered some of my memories. So I'm going to watch the video and compare my memories with hers. Now, in her video, she does go into some great lengths about being abused and being electroshocked. I don't remember that happening to me, so I will not be sharing that. But if you want to watch her whole entire video, I will have the link in the comments at the end of the video. So let's go ahead and share the screen. And I'm going to play the video, and I'll pause it at certain points and compare my notes with hers.
Our school also had a Stargate class. Children ages 5 to 7 were taken to the school library. There was about 10 or 12 of us.
I also remember being 10 or 12 of us kids. We were taken not to the library. There was a classroom across the hallway from the library. And I remember it being my librarian that was in the room with us, but my sister thinks it was a teacher that had a classroom down there in the basement as well. And we'd go once a week. And I remember there was a guy in a black suit that would always sit in the back of the classroom, and we didn't know who he was.
We had to sit at tables and look at colorful images on a screen.
I remember doing several tests. Every week they would test us on something. I think it started off with like a simple IQ test. Then there were the colorful cards that she was talking about. And yes, they were on a computer screen. Computers didn't go into classrooms until 5 to 6 years later. And yeah, these games, they made them like games for us because we were kids. And they made them like games for us. But yes, I remember the colored cards. I also remember there was a game where the cards were face down, and then you had to guess what card it was. So it was like a normal deck of cards, but you had to guess if it was a Queen of Diamonds or whatever. And I remember even being really good at that game, like really good at that game. So
I'm not quite sure how they accomplished that because it was well before our school got desktop computers when I was in 6th grade. I would have been kindergarten and 1st grade when I had to go to the library for these events.
I also remember having headphones on. So we would do these games with the headphones. And back then, the headphones were like these giant blue or tan headphones that we had on our heads. I remember that.
After we watched colorful images on the screen, we had to listen to strange sounds with headphones. Now I know that those sounds are like the dial-up tones for the old dial-up internet connection.
I also remember that. I remember the weird sound. Back then, we thought it was weird. And I remember when the first time I had my first home computer and I plugged it into the internet for the first time and it made that noise. I was like, how do I know this noise? And my husband at the time was like, this is brand new technology. There's no way you know that noise. I'm like, no, I've heard this noise before. And at the time, I couldn't put my finger on how I knew that noise. Well, now that she explains it, yes. So what I'm thinking is they were uploading our test results to someone, and that was dial-up internet sound that we were hearing in the headphones.
Then they wanted us to find things by remote viewing. The first few times I did what they asked, and I was able to find the things right away and give an accurate location for them.
I also remember that it started off with just naming objects off a tray, and then they would cover up the objects, and you'd have to try to remember all the objects that were on the tray. And then they would move on to locations. So as the weeks went on, I do remember that the numbers of kids were dropping as the weeks went on. So I'm thinking now as an adult, I'm thinking maybe maybe they failed the test, so they weren't part of that program anymore. By the time we got to locating things on a map, there was only me and 2 other students left in that classroom. They had us looking at these relief maps of countries that I don't even know what country I was looking at.
all of the things were far away in countries that I didn't even know the name of. However, remote viewing was very troubling for me.
So I'm not. That's pretty much the rest of the video I'm gonna share with that one. So I remember looking at the maps. They would give us maps, and they would tell us to concentrate on the map, and we would concentrate, and then they would tell us. They'd ask us, "What do you see?" And I remember explaining in like great detail of what I saw. And at the time, I was a kid, so I didn't know what I was describing. They'd ask me to either draw it out or actually, explain it verbally. And I would tell them like, "Oh, I see. There's 3 tunnels, and you have to go down 10 steps. And then if you make a right, it goes into this room. If you make a left, it goes to a shaft." Basically, now I know what I was explaining. I was viewing government, secret government bases. I think. I think I was like describing government bases, like underground bases. It's the weirdest shit. I mean, now that I think back, like as a child, I was just saying, brick building or 3 buildings, but now I realize it was probably, and I don't know what country I was looking at, because they would have us. So the maps would be in a grid. They'd have grid lines on them, and then they would say, point to, what quadrant of the map, kind of like a Thomas guide. But so they had like a grid, and so I'd be like, I don't know. So I'd be like, oh, well, I'm seeing this image in quadrant B13 or whatever, and they would like write down all my notes that I would be, as a kid, I'd be telling them, and I was being honest what I saw, because I didn't think I was gonna get in trouble for anything. I mean, I never did, but I don't know. It was the Cold War, so I'm wondering if they were like having us kids like trying to figure out where Russia had their freaking underground bases and the secret military bases. I don't know. I mean, maybe. I don't know. After I saw this video, I ran across the government, what do you call it? Hold on. The government program called Project Stargate. And I'm going to share my screen here. So I'm going to play a little bit about this. So that just kind of verified that was a real program. Those are real people that they had doing the remote viewing. So it was an actual government program. So it's a real thing, remote viewing. And what's funny is I can actually still do it. So after I remembered all this from watching that video, I had my daughter in California, and we did a little experiment. So I had her write something down on a piece of paper and flip it upside down. And I told her I would call her the next day after I woke up and let her know what it was. So we started off with just simple shapes, and those were way too easy for me. So then I told her, I was like, let's move on to letters. So for like the first week, I got all of them right. And then I told her, let's move on to words. So I got almost all of them right, except for one. She had written pizza, but she had put the line to the Z's. And so I think in my mind's eye, I didn't know what the Z's were. Anyway, so after that, the second week, it freaked her out so bad. She's like, how are you seeing this? How are you getting all these right? I do have like a secret camera set up in my apartment. And I'm like, no. I was like, no, it's just part of my ability from when I was a child. And I was trying to explain it to her, and it just freaked her out. So she didn't want anything else. She didn't want anything to do with that after that. I mean, I don't blame her. So I stopped that experiment, but obviously I can still do it. I still have the ability. So I don't know. I mean, am I like MK Ultra and I don't know about it? I'm like, are there be a code word in my head and I'm gonna like do something? I don't know. But my sister and I both don't know why that they got rid of the program because the very next year, the GATE program wasn't there in our elementary school anymore. They just like packed up and left. It was the weirdest thing. Like I asked her, I go, how come we weren't in it the following year? Like, how come we weren't invited back to the GATE program? And my sister's like, they got rid of the GATE program, I think. She's like, we never heard anything else about it after that. Who was the man in the black suit? Who were they uploading my test results to? I don't know, but it was definitely an interesting experience that I experienced. So thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. I appreciate y'all. Bye.